colleagues, and distinguished guests. Today I'm going to talk about mass propaganda campaigns where large portions of the population were easily swept up and then further propagated the propaganda. I will use examples and give some things to look out for. Weak arguments often use logical fallacies to make them appear stronger. A logical fallacy is a flaw in reasoning. They're tricks of thought that fool people. Strong arguments are void of logical fallacies. Let's look at some example. Smoking. When I was growing up, everybody smoked. My parents smoked, teenagers smoked, the bad kids smoked. Everybody smoked. But around that time, you started hearing that medical researchers were saying smoking is bad for you, and there's a link to cancer. The tobacco industry spent millions on advertising and trying to fight regulations. As kids, we'd hear that. We go, "Mom, Dad, you're going to get cancer, right?" And they were like, they don't want to hear it, right? So, the tobacco companies, they couldn't prove the science wrong. They just needed to raise doubt, so people would keep on smoking. Some logical fallacies that you heard, anecdotal. An anecdotal is an isolated case or a personal experience. Things like, oh, my friend's uncle, he smoked and he lived till he was 90 years old, so smoking can't be bad for you. Well, that's an isolated case. It doesn't mean smoking doesn't cause ailments in a lot of other people. Other things you heard was a circumstantial attack, right? It's a liberal conspiracy to deny liberty, right? Well, I don't know that the cancer cells necessarily appreciate the political ramifications, Another one is appeal to the masses. It's amazing how easily you can manipulate and control people if you just make things fashionable and trendy. You see it all the time. And it actually became fashionable not only to smoke, but fashionable to repeat the propaganda amongst a large segment of the population. Today, if you heard someone saying that cigarettes weren't bad for people, you would think, well, this person has a loose screw. I mean, people still smoke, but they know they're rebellious or something like that. They're not. It's not like they don't know it's not bad for them. Okay, another mass propaganda campaign. Smog control on cars. Cars didn't always have smog control. You didn't have to go, like in California, every 2 years get a smog certificate like that. I lived in LA in the 80s, and the air was just horrible back then. Smog alerts were common. You never saw the mountains or the hills. The sky was brown, and a brown haze always loomed. Today, smog alerts are rare. The sky's blue, and you can see the hills and mountains regularly. The chemists and the atmospheric scientists understood the chemistry. The auto industry spent millions against regulations for pollution controls. They wanted to raise public doubt. They couldn't disprove the science, but they tried to raise public doubt. Logical fallacies that you heard, repeated by people, crazy myths. Like you heard, well, it's surrounded by mountains. When the Native Americans were here, their campfires had smoke. There was nowhere for the smoke to go because of the mountains. And it was smoggy back then, so the smog's always been here. Nothing you can, but you actually heard this from people that were, intelligent, you thought, until another thing you heard was ad hominem, attacking the scientist's ability or their character rather than scrutinizing the chemistry that's involved in smog particle production. What do you think about these people today? They were so obviously wrong. A few years ago, we all remember the ozone hole was in the news. Ozone is being depleted from our atmosphere by chemicals commonly used by humans. Ozone, of course, protects the surface of the Earth from the sun's ultraviolet rays. And scientists discovered it primarily using satellite data. They saw that it's really depleted in the North Pole. Well, since then, treaties have been signed internationally, and the use of those chemicals have been decreased substantially. But during that time, the industries fought these new regulations, and baloney repeaters just came out of the woods. Like, where do these people come from? But one logical fallacy that you heard quite often, saying something is not true because you find it difficult to understand. That's no excuse, and that one happens a lot. Chemistry happens. Pay attention in high school chemistry class. That's all I can say. What's happening today? What are some fallacies that may be happening today? Well, there's several things. One of them, there's the anti-vaccine movement that's out there. Are there financial motives? Well, sure. Jenny McCarthy and other celebrities, they make big money on the talk show circuit. Logical fallacies that you may hear will appeal to authority. Just because someone has some fame doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. Appeal to emotions. The poor parents are scared. Of course they are. They're trying to be good parents. They're scared. They don't take their children to get vaccinated. False cause. Kids get vaccinations. When you're a kid, it's also when you're typically diagnosed for autism. Correlation, however, is not causation. The same type of data analysis they did in showing that smoking is linked to cancer shows that there's no link between vaccines and autism. It just happens to be around the same time. And, one more, there's another little propaganda campaign you may have heard about. It's been in the news. You may have read about it on the internet, little thing, climate change. Some of you have heard about that, maybe. Are there financial motives? Energy is one of the biggest businesses on the planet, where you get your energy from. It's really, when you look back, it's the same thing that happened with tobacco, the auto industry, the ozone depleting industries. It's just thousands of times bigger, and it's funded with thousands of times more money. It's funded by big oil tycoons like the Koch brothers and others. They want to control where your energy comes from. Logical fallacies involved in that. Well, yeah, saying something's not true because you find it difficult to understand, appeal to authority, appeal to emotion, false cause, ad hominem, crazy miss, appeal to the masses, circumstantial attack, anecdotal, to name a few.